Hey robot makers, so do you want to learn all about the Raspberry Pi 5, do a bit of a deep dive and a hands-on? Then this is the show for you. So my name's Kevin, come with me as we build robots, bring them to life with code and have a whole load of fun along the way. Okay, let's get to it, shall we? And hi to everybody that's new to the show as well. Okay, so this is all about the Raspberry Pi 5. I'm going to have a look at the new features. We're going to have a bit of a deep dive on some of those features, tell you some things you might not already know from the press materials that you might have seen already, and obviously we're going to have a bit of a play with it live. So if you want me to run a particular thing on the Pi, there's something specific you want to see, let me know in the comments on the live stream, and we'll get to that after we've done some of these slides. So yes, let Alex know what you want to play with there. So what's new with the Raspberry Pi 5? So yes, this is an all new Raspberry Pi. It's not based on the Raspberry Pi 4 chip. This is a new iteration, and it also has a new chip on there, the RP1. We'll have a look at what that actually means and what that does. It has dual camera support. So if you have an original Raspberry Pi or one of the later generations up to the 4, you'll have had a display connector as well as the camera connector. They've now been moved together at the bottom of the board there, and they can be used interchangeably. So you can have two displays, you can have two cameras, or any combination of those. There is also now the PCI Express connector, which means we can do all kinds of interesting things with things like NVMe memory, SSDs and so on. So we've got an extra port that we didn't have before. There's now an improved GPU chip as well, so we can do some really cool graphic stuff. This is running about 300 megahertz faster than the previous generation, so that's now I think 800 megahertz. And we have a power button, thank you. We have a power button, which means we can now switch the Pi on and off very, very simply, which we actually couldn't do before. There is also now a real-time clock and an external battery connector so that we can have this Pi running and getting the correct time, even if it's not connected to the internet. So these are some quite new features. That's kind of the high level. So let's have a look at some of these new features in depth, shall we? Okay, so this now features the RP1 Southbridge chip. We'll have a look at what Southbridge means in a minute. But this is the first full-size Raspberry Pi that has the silicon on there that Raspberry Pi have designed in-house. Now, if you have a Raspberry Pi Pico, I'm looking around for one here. If you look on the Raspberry Pi Pico chip, you'll see on there that it says RP2 on there. This is actually the second silicon chip. The RP1 is the very first silicon chip that Raspberry Pi have been working on. So this is actually came out before the RP1, even though it's actually a second chip that they worked on. So this new RP1 is like I said, the Southbridge. So it's not the main processor. The main processor is a 64 quad-core ARM Cortex A76 processor running at 2.4 gigahertz, so significantly faster than the 1.8 gigahertz from the previous Raspberry Pi 4. And it's delivering between 2 and 3 times increase on CPU performance in the Raspberry Pi 4. It's noticeable when you use the Pi. It's a lot more quicker, a lot more snappier, even just doing everyday things. So like I said, with the graphics processor, the GPU, that's now running at 800 megahertz using the VidCore 7 GPU. So it's the latest version of the VidCore. The previous was the 6, obviously. And the desktop experience is really, really buttery smooth, as they say, because it has a new image signal processor in the RPI, and also you have a new user interface using the Wayland protocol called Wayfire. So that also gives like a 2 times user interface experience as well. So we'll have a look at that today too. Got faster speeds for external drives as well. So we've got double the aggregate USB bandwidth, which means if you plug in drives to your USB, you can actually get the full 5 gigabit through each of the ports rather than sharing it between one. And that goes for the USB 2 as well as the USB 3. So you've got these much faster routes to the core. There's also a 4-lane MIPI camera connector that's at 1.5 gigabits per second, so the cameras can actually do a lot faster transfer of data, and potentially that means we can do a lot more data input. So you might see 4K cameras and the like. And the SD card also gets a boost, so that can now run at twice the speed using the SDR104 high-speed mode. So you need a special card for that, but essentially it's twice as fast as the previous generation. And we've now got the PCI Express 2.0 interface. Apparently, the gubbins of the new Raspberry Pi can actually do higher than PCI Express 2, but that's what they've currently certified it at. So look for, I think, a speed bump potentially in the future where they look to increase that standard. in software. That means there's all kinds of high-speed peripherals that we can now connect to the Pi, either using the little connector or some kind of hat and connector combination. So this Southbridge chip, the RP1, let's have a look what that means. So this is part of this new modern chiplet architecture approach, where we split out from, instead of having the single system on a chip approach where everything is on one chip, we can actually separate out some of the responsibilities and actually have a couple of chips doing different things. So the Northbridge is the main processor, and that can do the PCI Express, the CPU, the fast digit stuff, as Eben calls it, and also access to the RAM directly. And the Southbridge is a separate chip. This is the RP1, and that has responsibilities for a lot of the input output, so it can do that very, very fast without bothering the main CPU, and just send and receive data using a very, very fast bus between them. So the Southbridge can do things like PCI, it can do the USB, it can also do the camera input and output. So that's the split between them. There are a couple of reasons why they do this. It means that we've got this separation of duties, so we can actually work on the chips independently and have different releases at different times of different chips. It also means that there's different teams working on it, and once you've frozen the silicon design on one, you can still carry on working on the design on the other one, for example. You're not waiting for everybody to get their designs together at the same time. So you've got that separation of duty, both from a design point of view and a manufacturing point of view too. And yeah, we can build them separately too. It's also cheaper to develop that way because you've got the two chips being developed independently. Excuse me. So this results in a 2 times faster approach than the Raspberry Pi 4, so we've got all that extra power. So let's have a look at some of this on a graph here, so you can see from a pure processing speed in megahertz, gigahertz perspective, we're getting a significant boost from the Raspberry Pi 4, which I think came out of the factory at 1.5. You could run it at 1.8, and the new Raspberry Pi 5 is at 2.4 gigahertz before you even start overclocking it. I'm sure I've heard people running it at 3 gigahertz for short periods of time. I'm not sure how long you could sustain that for. But 2.4 gigahertz just for the raw processing chip cycles, but that combined with the core, combined with the VidCore 7, combined with the software, the new Bookworm user interface running on Wayland, all of that provides a much more powerful experience. And Eben said it's 150 times more powerful than the original Raspberry Pi, so that's that's orders of magnitude faster. So here are some of the features kind of as an overview. We have the, like I said, the new camera connectors, display connectors. We've got the VidCore 7 GPU running 800 megahertz. We can now do some fancy stuff with the 4K displays for the HDMI connectors. We'll get into that in a minute, but they're now running at 4K 60 frames per second comfortably. We've got the power button, of course. We've got the 3 times CPU speed. We've got the new Raspberry Pi RP1 Silicon, the PCI Express 2.0. We have the real-time clock with the external battery connector, which means we can do things like build a Raspberry Pi that's not connected to the internet and still have accurate timestamps for things. So if you have like a digital camera or something like that that's working unconnected, it can accurately do that for quite some time. And that battery that they provide as an option to buy when you purchase this, it's also rechargeable, so that you don't have to keep putting a new one in every couple of years or whatever it is. We've also got 3 brand new JST connectors on board the Raspberry Pi, which is a nice change from the original sort of headers that they had there. And these are interestingly designed that they come in a 2, 3 and 4 pin variety so that we can't accidentally mess them up. So we have the real-time clock battery that's got 2 pins on it. We have the UART for doing things like debug, that's 3 pins. And we have the fan connector, which has now got 4 pins on it. There's also a brand new power management chip on there. We'll talk about the power requirements of the Raspberry Pi 5 in a minute, but it is significantly more than the previous generation. But there is a power management chip to make sure that that power is managed more intelligently, so it can actually run without requiring the full juice that it could potentially use. And that means if we plug things in like USB drives using that new faster interface, we need to be able to provide the power to those drives as well without glitching out, which I believe the Raspberry Pi 4 did. If you had like a RAID configuration with lots of drives pulling too much power, you get brownouts and things like that. So this new power management chip handles all that much more gracefully. It's connected to the power button as well, so it can detect those soft signals on and off, and it also means that we can like I said, just manage that power more intelligently. Cool. So that's the features as an overview. So the evolution of the Pi, this is a chart I put together quite a long time ago, and I've been adding to it as new products have been released. So you can see we've got the original Raspberry Pi. I've got one of them here. Mine's been signed by Eben when I met him at the National Computing Museum, or National Museum for Computing, I think it's called, down in Milton Keynes sort of way at Bletchley Park. And yeah, this is the original I think 256 meg variant of the Raspberry Pi, so very, very old. It still works though, still supported. So that was 2011, 2012. I think I got mine in August 2011. And you can see there all the different Pis, and at the very end at 2013 we've got the Raspberry Pi 5B. So I wonder if we'll see a Raspberry Pi 5A. I wonder if we'll see the Compute Module 5. The desktop version, the Pi 500 potentially. So Eben said we are definitely getting the Compute Module 5. That will come at some point, and potentially like a Raspberry Pi B Plus with some subtle changes on there. So it comes in a 4 gig and 8 gig variety, and it does have support on the actual board for a 2 gig and 1 gig memory configuration, but that hasn't been released or announced just yet, but you can see that it's potentially there. Okay, so if you like what I do, make sure you drop a like on this video. Drop me a comment as well. Let me know if you're interested in getting a Raspberry Pi 5. If you've already got a Raspberry Pi, if you are getting one, what are you interested in doing with it? And also which supplier you're going to use to get it from. So I would obviously recommend Pimoroni, but you've also got things like Pi Hut in the UK, and in the US you've got like Adafruit, SparkFun, DigiKey, all the rest of the suppliers as well. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It means the world to me. It really makes a difference to my day when I see extra subscribers coming on there. But it doesn't make any difference to the channel, but it does tell YouTube that this is one to watch for. So please do that. It really helps me out personally. I do go live every single Sunday at 7 o'clock, same bat time, same bat channel as they say. So it's currently 7 o'clock BST or GMT +1, but I think this month is the month where we have the daylight savings change, goes back an hour, so that'll change back to GMT later this month. But yeah, I do go live every single Sunday, and it's usually around Raspberry Pis, MicroPython, programming, that kind of thing, robotics as well, obviously. That's my main focus. So let's have a bit of a deep dive on some of these features, or all of these features in fact, some things you might not have seen in the press already. Okay, so the first one, as we briefly talked about, is the new camera connector. So I've actually got on the desk over here, if I can flick over to this actually, I've got two cameras connected. So I've got one camera there, and I've got another camera there connected to the two connectors. So we'll have a play about with that in a second, and we'll see what that actually looks like and how we could potentially use that. So this is this new 4-lane MIPI DSI, CSI ports, which is just the display and camera connectors. You can use them interchangeably. So they've had this increase in speed. They can now do 1.5 gigabits per second, which is faster than previous generation, triple the bandwidth, because you've now got a pair of 4 lanes. So previously I think it was just 2 lanes, so significantly faster. So any combination of those cameras and displays are supported. Now interestingly, the camera size, the cable is smaller. I'm not sure if I've got one of the other cables to hand. Yes, so these ribbon cables that you connect your cameras to, and then that to the Pi, these are the original ones which have been with the Raspberry Pi since the original Raspberry Pi. And the Raspberry Pi Zero has a slightly smaller connector size. That's the size of connector that's now on the Raspberry Pi 5. So these existing camera ribbon cables won't work. So you'll need to get, if you've got an existing camera, you'll just need to get the smaller camera connector size. Now they are releasing those. I think I've got another slide on that in a minute in a few different variants. So we'll get to that in a minute. Next up then is the dual display. So we've had dual displays on the Raspberry Pi 4. So we could plug in 2 4K monitors, but I think you could only do 30 frames per second on the Raspberry Pi 4, and it did struggle with some of that content. If you had like a YouTube video playing full screen, full size, it would sometimes jitter and because it couldn't decode it fast enough and then send the data out. That's all now history. You can now do a full 4K 60 frames per second on both of these HDMI connectors at the same time. So significantly faster and smoother and a better all-round experience. It feels much more like a regular desktop computer. And in fact, Eben was saying when they had the interview with him, and if you've not watched that, definitely go and watch that after this this video. He was saying that this computer is now approximately the same speed as the 2015 MacBook Air, so it's kind of catching up with Apple there. And this is just a single board computer, so significantly faster there as well. We've now got the gigabit Ethernet, which now supports power over Ethernet Plus, which means we can now do 30 watts of power through the hat. So you do need the PoE hat to make this work, but it is now supported, and it's, like I said, a significant improvement. It's a PoE Plus 802.3 AT standard if you're interested, and you get that 25.5 watts of guaranteed power available to the board. So anything else that needs that power on there. And that's also because of that new power management chip that we have on board too. We've got the improved USB, so this is now the USB 3 and the USB 2 and now have the simultaneous 5 gigabit operation throughput. The 3 has that, the 2 has the standard speed that it's had before, but because it's now got the extra lanes that can be used, you get the full bandwidth of those USB. You're not sharing it between them, so you can do things like USB RAIDing a lot easier. VidCore 7 is the new standard for the GPU. So again, that's been improved from 500 megahertz to 800 megahertz. It shows as well when you're using the user interface. It's definitely a lot snappier. And we've now got support, if this is something you're interested in OpenGL ES 3.1 and also Vulkan 1.2. So these new graphics standards that some other boards have supported are now supported by the Raspberry Pi 5. And I believe that the new Wayfire, which is the Wayland protocol user interface, uses the OpenGL ES, so you get all these nice fade effects, a bit like you have on like an Apple or a modern Windows computer, so it's not kind of like the flat X Windows display that you might have seen previously. And the power management chip that we were talking about before, this dialogue chip there. So this now, the whole Raspberry Pi is now 5 volts at 5 amps. That is quite a lot more than the previous generation, and it's because the processor requires that kind of grunt, and also all these other devices that can hang off it can now make use of that as well. But you do need to get the new power supply. You can't necessarily just plug in a mobile phone charger and it work to the full standard. If you do plug in a mobile phone charger that can't provide the full 5 amps, the chip will just manage the power to the board, and some features may not be available, but it will still work. So that's an important thing there. And it's using the USB Type-C connector, and it does the same kind of thing that your laptop might do, where you can negotiate the power between the devices, so it can sort of ramp up the power being provided to the board intelligently through the USB connector. So some improvements there too. Obviously that talks to the power button as well. So we've got some new accessories. We have the new case. This has an integrated fan with some air vents for cooling underneath, you can see there. And the fan sits in between the top of the case and the actual board itself. So they've designed that so you can still get at the headers, and you can see it there, that nice transparent thing. So I've ordered one of those when mine arrives in October, but the one I've got on my desk doesn't have a case yet. This is the new official power supply, the 5 volts 5 amp power supply with that new intelligent power management feature on it via the USB-C connector. So definitely get yourself one of those if you're ordering one. And these are the new camera cables that I was talking about. So they come in either 200mm, 300mm or 500mm. And I'm pretty sure there'll be very long ones available as well for people who use them, like, for example, with 3D printers who have like quite a long ribbon cable. You can get little connectors that have different heads on them, different ends on them. So you can see the thinner end at the very top there, that's the one that goes into the Pi, and then the other side is what that goes into the actual camera itself. So just be aware of that change in size of camera connectors. So this also is an interesting one. This is the Power over Ethernet Plus hat. Now, what's interesting is if you check out this is the official picture that's on the raspberrypi.com website, I think it is. Look at that solder job that they've done, where it says UK and Canada there. What has happened? It looks like somebody's manually done this. There's all kind of bridging on the solder and stuff. That's not going to be what the manufactured one looks like. This is just one that they've got as a work in progress. We can kind of see how that works there. There's a space for the fan to sit on. You've got the 40-pin header pin things there, as well as the chips on the board as well. So it's kind of an L-shaped design. That's going to be available early 2024. Supports the 4-pin power over Ethernet header. It's in that L-shaped form factor and sits inside the Raspberry Pi 5 case without interfering mechanically or disrupting the airflow. So they've done quite a bit of clever engineering. That's why it's this L shape, and it will fit in that official case that we just saw on the previous slide. Then this is the one that probably I think most people will be interested in because it's new for Raspberry Pi. This is the M.2 hat. So this uses the PCI Express and it allows you to put in M.2 modules. So you can do NVMe type modules for SSDs. So you can have all the extra storage, more faster and reliable storage than maybe the SSD. And you can see the different standards we've got there, the 2230 minus and the 224 minus format devices, so they'll fit inside the Raspberry Pi 5 case as well. So you can use this or the power over Ethernet hat as I understand it. And then there's the official real-time clock battery as well that's got that 2-pin connector on there. That's using this Panasonic lithium manganese rechargeable coin cell battery, and that's going to be released, I think it's $5 for that as well. And then let's talk about the new interface. So with the Raspberry Pi being launched, there's going to be the Raspberry Pi's latest operating system release, which is based on Debian. This is Bookworm. So, or Bookwork, as I put it there, Bookworm. And this is different than the previous generations, whereas the previous generation of the interface was X window based. I think it had an interface that was called, was it Mutter? Mutter, I think it was called, yes. This now uses a new user interface that's called Wayfire, and that's based on the Wayland protocol, the Wayland language. So check out wayland.org if you want to know more about that. So this is, yes, a new user interface window management system based on the Wayland protocol. Draws things on the screen. It can push pixels to the screen 2 times faster than the previous one. This is actually going to be available for Raspberry Pi 4s, 3s and 2s as well, as I understand it. Not the original Raspberry Pi, but it will be available. The Bookworm will be available, I should clarify. I think the Wayland interface is available for the Raspberry Pi 4, but I'm not sure about previous generations. I think they're still on Mutter. That'll become clearer once they've actually pushed it out the door. I think it's still being worked on. But it certainly feels faster, it's certainly more responsive. We'll have a look at that. I'll disconnect my overhead camera and plug it into the Pi so we can actually see firsthand what the interface looks like rather than using it through VNC, for example. And it has this nice fade and zoom effect when you open up windows, and that's because it's using the Wayland compositor to composite things on there, similar to how macOS works with Quartz, for example. So yes, that'll be available for the Raspberry Pi 4 as well. Okay, so today's sponsor very kindly sponsored the show. I'm just going to play a quick clip from them. So this is PCBWay. Thank you, PCBWay, for sponsoring today's show. This video is sponsored by PCBWay, your ultimate destination for all things PCB manufacturing and assembly. Whether you're a hobbyist, a startup or a seasoned professional, PCBWay has got you covered. PCBWay offers an impressive range of services. They provide high-quality, custom-designed printed circuit boards for any application you can imagine, from single-layer to multi-layer, flexible and even rigid flex PCBs. They have the expertise to bring your designs to life. PCBWay ensures fast turnaround times and affordable prices without compromising on quality. With their state-of-the-art facilities and advanced manufacturing techniques, they can handle small prototype orders up to large-scale production runs with equal precision and efficiency. PCBWay offers additional value-added services such as PCB assembly, component sourcing, and even functional testing. You can trust them to deliver the fully assembled and tested boards ready for integration into your projects. One of the best parts of PCBWay is their user-friendly online platform. It allows you to easily upload your designs, get instant quotes, and track the progress of your orders in real time. Plus, their dedicated customer support team are ready to assist you with any questions or concerns. So whether you're working on an innovative Internet of Things device, a robotics project, or anything in between, PCBWay is your go-to partner for reliable and affordable PCB manufacturing and assembly. Head over to PCBWay.com today and turn your ideas into reality with PCBWay, your trusted PCB manufacturing and assembly partner. So thank you for that, PCBWay. Okay, let's get back to our slide, shall we? I think we're nearly at our demo time. Not quite. So the specifications of the board from a mechanical perspective are pretty much unchanged. One of the things that is to note though is the position of the Ethernet connector. Let me just mute my other audio there. So I've got trying to live stream to TikTok as well today. And it's not going very well, but we'll talk about that later. So yes, the dimensions of the board are pretty much unchanged. So the mounting points that you've been used to are the same mounting points. There are 2 new extra mounting points, which are for the active cooling fan, which we will look at. But yes, the position of the Ethernet connector is now different than the previous generation, the Raspberry Pi 4, but it is the same as all the other generations. So the Raspberry Pi 4 was odd in that the Ethernet connector was actually at the top of the board. It's now gone back to the bottom of the board. And that's to do with the pinouts of the main chip and just the way that they could connect things to that. So just a small change, but it does mean that you need to get the new case to put that in there. But pretty much everything else is the same. One of the things that is different as well is there is now no audio jack. There's no 3.5mm audio jack on the Raspberry Pi 5. I think when they looked at adding new features and who was using the other features and what they wanted to bring on there, that was the thing they had to sort of sacrifice. So you can still have audio through HDMI, you could get audio through USB and also through Bluetooth as well, and possibly through the header pins. There is also a 2-pin header pin which isn't populated, that just says vid on there. I'm not sure if that's just for composite video or whether there is some audio capabilities through that too, but yes, there's no 3.5mm audio jack there anymore. Okay. So some other pieces of information that you may or may not have missed out. So you can now pre-order the Raspberry Pi 5. Most manufacturers, most suppliers that you would normally buy your Raspberry Pi from have some kind of pre-order list. The reason that there's a pre-order and you can't just get it today is because of FCC regulations. So just to sell anything in the US, you need to have an FCC certificate, and by showing the certificate and getting it on there, the FCC bot will tweet out that this is something that's been requested by Raspberry Pi, and that will kind of let the cat out the bag. So they've kind of pre-announced it so they can get the certification. It can be sold in the US at the same time as everywhere else as well. Also gives them an extra bit of time to manufacture as many of these as possible. So I'll talk about manufacturing. This Raspberry Pi 5 is only going to be available to hobbyist makers, education, no industrial users until early 2024. And that's to make sure that anybody that wants one can get one and isn't waiting because the industrial market has kind of taken all the supply away. And interestingly, this doesn't actually impact the manufacturing capability of Raspberry Pi 4s. So they've basically got extra lines in the factories to produce the Raspberry Pi 5s. It's a different technique. The 40-pin header, for example, is now no longer a through the hole component. It's more of a surface mount with wicked up solder effect. So it's a different manufacturing process. It isn't using the same machines. So that now means that we can have more Raspberry Pis being produced, which is a good thing. There's 2 versions available at launch. We've got the 4 gig version, which is $60. We've got the 8 gig version, which is $80. And I think that's the same kind of price point as the Raspberry Pi 4 was going for. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any difference in price there for the Raspberry Pi 4. Okay, it's time to do a bit of a hands-on. So let me go over to this view over here. Thanks, Jonathan, for joining the channel there. Let me just move that to there. Right, so over here I've got the Raspberry Pi 5 on my desk. You can see there the active fan isn't running at the moment, and that's because, oh, it just popped on just for a second actually, because it doesn't need to be on all the time. So it only comes on when it needs to provide some cooling. So that will pop on. It's extremely quiet, you can't hear it at all, and that's because it's been very well engineered, very well manufactured. You've got a great big heatsink next to it as well, and it covers the main 3 or 4 chips that are on the board there. You can see we've got the cameras plugged in, so we'll have a look at the dual camera capability, and I'm also using the new power supply. And interestingly, this particular one that I got had this little tag attached to it that says number 12 on it. So my understanding is this is the 12th Raspberry Pi 5 that was ever manufactured, so I've got one of the very, very early releases there from Raspberry Pi themselves. And there's the original Raspberry Pi, the first generation, the original Raspberry Pi. I don't think they call it a 1, I think they just call it the original Raspberry Pi. That's the one by comparison. You can see that the Ethernet connector is in the same position, whereas on the Raspberry Pi 4 that's been moved to the sort of top position there. So I've got all this set up, and what I'm going to do, the actual cable that's connected to this overhead camera, I'm going to disconnect it and plug it into one of these USB ports, and that means we can then see the new Wayfire interface. So what I will do, I'll go back to me for a second, and I'm going to go to this view here, so you can see all the different views. You can see me in the Livestream studio there, and what I'm going to do is just disconnect this camera over here. I'm going to get that cable down, and I'm going to plug this into our Raspberry Pi. So I'm just going to plug it into that one there. So that should mean now that we get the desktop appearing, which we have. So if I now go back to over here, this is now the Raspberry Pi desktop. So if I move my mouse over here, which is on my desk, and I just click on, for example, you see how these sort of open up, this sort of zoom and fade. It's really nice. Now watch this. If you've ever launched Chrome before on Raspberry Pi, you can be sat around for quite a while waiting for that to launch. So if I press it, it'll launch almost immediately. It's just very, very quick to do. What I'm also going to do is I've actually got a VNC window. I'm just going to close that down because I think that's interfering with this launching. So if I just disconnect from that, that should hopefully mean that there's no problems there. I'm also going to type in htop so we can see what's going on inside the processor, if you like. We can see how much RAM is being used. I'm just going to put that at the top corner over there. And let's just try launching Firefox, for example. So let's go over here, Firefox. Yeah, so on the Raspberry Pi 4, if you tried launching a browser or something, you could be there for quite some time waiting for this to open up. So this is now a lot quicker. I'm just going to say not now for that. Don't ask me again. And let's load up. Let's load up Kev's Robots. Let's go to kevsrobots.com. Oops, not Kev's Roots. kevsrobots.com. That's not Kev's Robots, that's Kev Robots. Let's try Kev's Robots. There we go. And what I will also do, I'll open up another tab, and I'm going to go to YouTube, and I'm going to go to Kev's Robots on YouTube. Let's go there. Okay. Wait for that to connect there. This is probably seriously going to damage my bandwidth availability, I think, on the stream, because we're stealing all the bandwidth. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go and look over there at this other one, see if anything's happening there. So no. So what I think I'll do, Alex, is just kill that TikTok stream, because I don't think that's actually working, is it? So let's just end that live. There we go. We'll have a look at that next time. I'll need to play about with that a bit more, I think. Okay, let's just do that and see if that improves the bandwidth slightly. It looks like we're getting very low bandwidth generally on the stream. I don't know if that's affecting anyone. So I'll just wait for that to catch up. So is anybody having any issues with the live video stream? I'm interested to know if that's running slow for anyone. To me, it looks like we're getting very, very low bandwidth, and you might see a bit of buffering potentially. Hopefully that will improve in a couple of minutes' time. Okay, so while that's loading up, let's just try this. Let's try that. Yeah, so it always says it's dropped a few times. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what's happening there. You getting issues as well there? Yeah. Not sure what's causing that. That's very frustrating. Let's have a quick look and see if there's anything we can do about that. Just while we wait, I'll just go back to me for a second then, just while we're having a look at that and try and troubleshoot it. Let's just see if there's anything we can do about that. Don't think so. Ah, there we go. It's returned now, so it should be okay now. Let's go back to the overhead. Let's just try refreshing that. I'm not sure why that dropped out for a second. Sometimes these things happen when you're doing a live. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, it's just dropped again. Wonder why that is. Is anything to do with this? Hopefully not. I can't see this stealing all the bandwidth. This one tiny browser window. Let's get rid of that and see if anything else happens there. Okay, let's not use the browser then. Let's try a different experiment instead. Let's go to Python and have a look at some camera stuff, shall we? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to load up the camera module using the video feature. So I think I've actually got this in the history. If I just do history, let's see if I can find where I typed this previously, because it'll save me a couple of minutes if I can find that. So that was just me installing stuff. There we go. Right, so it's lib camera hello, camera 0, and then the dimensions. Right, let me just grab that. In fact, let me just grab lib camera list cameras. Okay, so copy that, paste that. So it's list, I think it's list cameras. Dash, sorry. There we go. Okay, so we can see that we've got two cameras there. I've got the wide camera at the top, and we've got the noir camera on the bottom. So the noir one is the sort of black and white variant, designed for sort of nighttime use, so it doesn't have the infrared filter. And the other one is the wide camera, so we get a nice wide field of view on there. So if we now try using one of these cameras, let me just do that history command again, because I just want to grab what that command was. So that was, there we go, let's grab that command. And let's just, sorry, I'm not used to using a keyboard on a Raspberry Pi, I'm usually used to using a Mac. There we go, let's grab that and then let's just paste that in. And if we just do Control A, so lib camera dash hello, and then dash camera 0, and then we can say, and then the size is 00640 by 480. This is just like the display size, and then we want it so it doesn't time out. Right, so that's now going to open up a little window there. I can now move that one to one side. You can see the frame rate as well from that camera. And if I open up a new terminal window, we can do the same with the second camera. So let me just grab that there, type up. So let's just do lib camera, and then hello, and then dash camera, and then let's do that dash P. Was it camera? Do we have to say which camera number it is? I think we did, didn't we? So it was camera 1, I think we're on now. Camera 1 dash P 00640 by 480, and then the time. Excuse me. Okay, so we've got the second camera. So what I'm going to do is have that to the side there, and what I will do is I will alternate between, this is one camera and then this is the other camera over here. So camera 1 is, this is camera 1, the noir one, and this is camera 2, which is the wide one. So hello everybody. I'll move that up there so you can see me a little bit. Hello. And then the other camera is just next to it there. Let's pick that one up. Hello. So I've just got them, not in any kind of holder at the moment, but you can see both cameras are working independently at the same time. You can see as well they're pretty closely colour matched, even though this is the noir one without the infrared filter on there. But you can certainly see the, if you look at this this camera here, for example, this one is showing slightly different. If I go to that view there, I wonder if you can see both of them. I'm trying to get basically everything on screen at the same time. So you can see me waving my hand over there. You can see this little camera just here is pointing down at it, and you can also see the studio camera as well behind me there, pointing down. So you can kind of see everything going on at the same time there. So let's go back over to the Wayland interface there. Now the other thing I believe you can do Alt-Tab to move between windows. Look how nice that is. So that's a new feature that we didn't have previously. I'm not sure that any of the other keystrokes you can do on there, but yeah, Alt-Tab, just like on a Windows computer, and that's now using that the compositor, which is part of the Wayland interface. Now one of the other things I found that works really fast is when you do an update. So if I do like sudo apt update, I typed that wrong. I forget everything when I'm on a live stream. Let's try this. That update is so much faster than on a Raspberry Pi 4. It's like noticeably faster. If I do upgrade, Y to actually upgrade anything that's on there. The speed at which it downloads things and then installs them, unpacking them, is so much faster. So you saw then it was just a couple of seconds to do the update of those packages. On a Raspberry Pi 4 that seemed to take quite a while to do. That's one of the things I noticed early on that was significantly faster there. I'm trying to think of some other things that you'd be interested in having a look at. So I'm just going to go and have a look at the chat and see what people are talking about on there. So let's have a see if there's anybody mentioned anything that they want to see on here. So is any that you've seen, Alex, that anybody's asked for?
Yes, the HLED displays.
Okay, yep, so the HDMI displays.
It was not a fellow Vince wanted it.
All right, let me just check. So yeah, Alex was saying Vince has got one he wants to see. I'm just going to try and find that on the so
Hyperpixel displays.
oh, okay, so the hyperpixel display, I think they use the header, the 40-pin header SPI interface, I think, rather than the display connectors. So I don't think we would see any difference in those kinds of speeds. I do have a hyperpixel display in here somewhere. I'll just have a quick look through. I'm sure I've got the round one, so I've got the hyperpixel round display. We could potentially put that onto the 40-pin header. I can do this without snapping it off. So this is the round hyperpixel display from Pimroni, and this one is a touch sensitive display, 60 frames per second, but it does use the 40-pin header, so you'll not notice any difference there. You can use this in addition to the 2 displays and the 2 HDMI and have like 5 displays. That's entirely possible. You don't give up a display just because you're using a different display output. What's interesting is when you go to the computer, if I go back over here, excuse me, and I go to the screen configuration. So I go to preferences, I'm all over the place here, and screen configuration. This is a bit like on a Mac or on a Windows machine where you can have multiple displays on there. So what I will do, let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure this display is going to fit onto the hat just because I'm not sure it'll reach the pins with the active cooling fan on there. So that might be a bit of a tricky one to do, Vince. I'm sorry about that one. Maybe we can have a look at that in a future one. So Shortlander says, I want a new Raspberry Pi keyboard and mouse. So I did get the new Raspberry Pi keyboard and mouse. I was going to show you on the overhead one then. Let me just see which one's the best one to show you. This is like the official keyboard and mouse. I think it's exactly the same as the current release. I don't think it's any different actually. So there's no difference there. Go back to that one there. Let's see what else people are talking about on here. So let's see if there's anything else anybody wants to do. So somebody was asking, I'm worried about getting it too hot without the active cooling if it was really pushed. I mean, that's the same with the Raspberry Pi 4. If you try and run that without any kind of cooling and you're doing some top end kind of processing, you will find that you will have not brownouts, but the opposite of that. It will basically overheat and tell you that it needs to sort of cool down. It might even just shut down. So yeah, do watch out for that. There are different options for the cooling. The active cooling fan. In fact, let me disconnect the Raspberry Pi let me disconnect the display connector for a second and just go back to the overhead camera. Hopefully that'll kick in a second. So let me just turn that on and off. There we go. That should kick in. There we go. So let's have a look at this. I'm gonna turn it off. So the way I'm going to turn it off is I'm going to press the power button and I'm going to hold the power button in for a couple of seconds. And that's now forcibly shut down the Raspberry Pi. I'm just going to disconnect the power. I'm just going to disconnect the keyboard for a second. And I want to show you this just a bit closer on the overhead camera. I'll tell you what I'll also do. I'll just disconnect these cameras as well. So let me just do that and that. So this is the new Raspberry Pi 5. This is the active cooling fan that's on there. So if I actually get this to take this off, we can have a look at what the board looks like without these on. They're just a little bit fiddly to do. Let me see if I can do that without damaging it. go. They're just like two little plastic lugs. Let's just do this very carefully with these. Like so. There we go, that's one, and then let's just do the other one. Bit tricky to do on a live stream. There we go, that's come off as well. And then let's just take the fan connector off as well. And then I'll show you this. So there's the board. You can see Raspberry Pi 5. You can see the main chips that are on there. And this this cooling, active cooling, comes with like the pads that connect to those. So it's mainly cooling the Raspberry Pi 1 chip, which is there. That's the south bridge that does all the input output. We've got the is that the memory chip there? And then we have the main processor, which is there. And if you look there, there's 4 little resistors, and the top resistor is connected together, and that one is 8 gigs. So there's 8, 4, 2 and 1, and that's how it's going to support that. We can see there the little headers for that's the one there, the JST connector for the real-time clock battery. We've got the UART for debugging, and then we have the fan connector, which is what this one is over here. So if I just plug that back in the right way round, there we go. And what I was saying is that there's these new mounting holes. So there's one there and there's one over here, and there's these spring-loaded little connectors that you just push into the hole. So you can see that, you just push them and they sort of just connect in there and give a bit of resistance. So that's nice and snugly fit on there. And it's really, really quiet when it's running. And if I can tilt this right, you might be able to see there's a nice laser etched Raspberry Pi logo on there as well. So that's really nice little finishing touch they've got there. It's quite warm to touch as well, the board. And you can see on the back there as well, what I was saying about the through the hole connectors are very different. Let me just go and grab that. I just grab a Raspberry Pi 4 by way of comparison. So just pull this out. So this is a Raspberry Pi 4 by way of comparison. If I flip that over, you can see that these header pins sort of slightly stick out, whereas on the new one you don't get that. It's completely flush, and that's because these are not actually through the hole, whereas these ones are. The reason they did that originally was probably stability. If you're pushing things on there, actually physically going through the card, the PCB, can make it a bit more stronger. But there you go, that's the comparison of the underneath, and then that's what it looks like on the top there. So you'll see on the Raspberry Pi 4 we have that nice 3.5 millimeter connector for the audio, and we don't actually have that. But we do have this little vid header that's unpopulated there. And there's another one there, which is the PoE connector. That 4-pin connector there is for the PoE, for the power to go through to the board. And you've got the 40-pin header, which hasn't got the coloured. We expected it might have the colour-coded connectors on there, but it doesn't actually have that there. And then the PCI Express connector. That's the new PCI Express connector, just on the edge there too. So there you go. That's the board. So if I power this back up. As soon as you plug power in, the Raspberry Pi will come to life. So it's now booting up. I'll just plug in the keyboard, and the fan will come on momentarily when it's booting up, because it does draw back quite a bit of power, but then it will go back off. So it's now stopped spinning as well. So if I disconnected the overhead camera, we could actually see that booting up. If you want me to do that, I'm happy to do that too. Okay, let's have a see what everybody else is talking about. So some people have been ordering through the Pi Hut, and also through the priority boarding code through Magpie. Yeah, which I think that Magpie and let's go back to me for a second. Magpie magazine, they have this priority boarding, which if you're a subscriber to the Magpie magazine, excuse me, you get a code emailed to you, and you can provide that code to Pi Hut, and they essentially put you to the top of the queue for ordering Raspberry Pi 5. I'm just looking over to here, but where the comments are on the screen. So Dean Potts said, I've got one coming from Pimroni and one coming from Pi Hut, crafty. And Steve Phillips says, wish somebody would make camera cables that are round, only the flat connectors at both ends. Cable connectors with only flat connectors at the ends. Oh, yes, so instead of it being like a ribbon cable, you mean like it just being like a regular round cable. Must be a reason why they've gone with the ribbon cable approach. Not sure what that is, but I guess you can get more extreme flexing on a ribbon cable, so you can do like really sharp bends in your connectors, whereas with a regular copper cable, maybe there's limits with that, and there must be a design choice for that. So Dean's saying he can't wait for the M2.5 hat. Let's see what else we've got on here. So the Norm was asking, the M2.5 hat means no cooling fans. So I don't think so. I think there is cooling available underneath the hat. I think it might have an integrated cooler. They will have thought of that for the official one. And there will also be lots of third-party hats as well that will come along. I'm pretty sure you'll see the likes of Pimoroni, Adafruit, and who's the other big manufacturer of hats? Their name escapes me. But yes, like Citron, do they do them? DigiKey. There'll be quite a few other hat manufacturers basically producing hats that have all kinds of cooling options on them, and M2 modules as well. So yes, M.2 you can also boot from that. So NVMe you can boot from the SSDs, and that's going to be a thing that is working, I believe. Let's see what else people are talking about on here. Lots of chatter there as well. So I understand that Pimoroni have actually sold out their pre-orders. They've got another batch coming in November. So we'll have to see. So if you definitely want a Raspberry Pi 5, I would say check out all the manufacturers. Don't be afraid of just going to one particular one. Check out who's got availability. Go to rpilocator.com as well. You can find out what the availability is, where it is still available. So yeah, Dignuts is very excited about the 64-bit Firefox on the RPI. It's very fast as well. I was just having a few internet problems there. I don't know why. That it whenever I clicked on like load up the browser, it seemed to just kill my bandwidth. So I'm not sure what's going on there. If it's like checking for an update or something like that. But hey. So and I noticed we also have Simon Monk on the stream. So Simon, we'll definitely have to talk about your new Coding the 21st Century's Most Valuable Skill book as well shortly. So that's I'm just trying to see if there's anything else anybody wants to see. Turning it on and off, so Marty wants to see that. So what I will do, I will just switch off the Raspberry Pi here, and what I will do, I'll disconnect the overhead camera and plug that back in again, so that we can actually see what this looks like. So if I now go to, so it'll look like a test card. Don't worry about that. Oh no, it's just got that there. If I go to this, it'll look like a test card as I power it off. So I'm just going to hold it down, do a forcible shutdown. There we go. And if I press now the power button, what's going to happen now is it's going to boot up. You'll see on the HDMI the boot up screen. As soon as it gets to the right resolution, it will do that. There we go. And it's booting up to the desktop as well. So there we go. I will do another reset so you can actually see this. I'm not sure if the memory card that I'm using is the fastest type of memory card, so it might not be booting as fast as it potentially could do. But let's just do that again. Let's just do a shutdown. And let's just do a reboot. So you can just see it there shutting down. I'm hoping to catch the display momentarily as it... I'm not sure my capture card is keeping up with the speed of the booting, because you can't actually see the text there. But there we go. So it's doing the boot and then straight into the desktop. There we go. Hope that's kind of what you're after there. And if you want to see that from... let's go for this camera. This isn't the best camera, I'm afraid, so if I press the power button that's here, press it once, what actually happens if I now go back over to the desktop, the power button pressing it's a soft signal to say, show me the shutdown options. So you can see there we've got all these shutdown options. If I press it again, it will then power off the Raspberry Pi. So that's now powered it off. And we've got like a red light. If I press it on again, so if I just go back to over here, sorry, if I press it on again, we've now got the green light and the fans come on, and it's now beginning to boot up again, like so. So there we go. Maybe I can go to that view there, so we can see the Raspberry Pi on the top there. Okay, so let's go to see if there's anything else somebody wants to look at. So see if anybody else wants to look at something. Plex, wave share. So what else have we got on here? Anything else I can show you? I was going to try and show you some kind of Python program running, but I've not really had time to sort of prepare that as a kind of thing to show off to you yet. But certainly unpacking, unzipping things is definitely a lot quicker as well. So let's get back to our slides and see if there's anything else we need to cover off on here. So yes, if you want to learn more about robotics, Python, MicroPython, Raspberry Pis, all that kind of good stuff, I've got all kinds of tutorials for you completely for free with no kind of sign up. Just head over to kezrobots.com/learn/ and start learning today. There's a couple of different learning pathways you can choose if there's something specific you want to learn, and there's whole individual courses as well. Now, like I said, all completely free and no problem for you to access those without any kind of sign up. We also have merch, so if you want to get a Robot Maker hat like mine, I've got a couple of different colours. I've got my red one here as well. We also do mugs and t-shirts and hoodies and all that kind of stuff, and notebooks. You can check out the merch store, so go over to kezrobots.com/merch and you can check that out there. That helps support the show. And if you haven't joined our Discord server, we do have a Discord server where occasionally pop in there and there's a load of people all helping each other with like robotics problems, Raspberry Pi questions, all that kind of good stuff. So go to kezrobots.com/discord. It does ask you for like an email address, which is for our weekly newsletter, which is kind of fortnightly now. We did intend it to be weekly, but it's quite a thing to keep putting a newsletter out each week, so it's kind of fortnightly at the moment. But yes, if you get that, then it'll send you a link and then you can just get onto our Discord server. Again, that's completely free. And if you want to follow me on social media, so I am on Threads, so I'm at Kev Mackley at threads.net. I'm on TikTok at Kev Mackley6. I'm going to try and get the live stream working on TikTok for future things. I haven't got a stream key, so I can't directly stream from my streaming software, so I'm trying to figure out some kind of janky way to do that with these little video capture card things. That's not working great at the moment because there's no audio, but that's something we'll look at for a future one. I'm also on Instagram. I'm trying to grow my number of followers on Instagram, so check me out there, Kevin McAleer on Instagram. And I'm also on X, what was Twitter, at KevsMac, and also Mastodon Social at KevsMac on mastodon.social. I'm also on Blue Sky at KevsMac as well, so you can find me on Blue Sky as well. So follow me on all the places if you want, and say hi over there too. And your support really matters to me. So if you want your name in the end credits, you can do that a number of different ways. You can do a super thanks, you can do a super chat on the live stream. Let me make sure we've got that enabled as well. There we go. And you can also join the YouTube membership program by clicking the little join button below the main player. And again, that's like the price of a coffee per month. If you want to buy me a physical coffee, I am a coffee drinker. You can go to kezrobots.com/coffee and you can buy me a physical coffee there. Okay. And our supporters, of course. So let's give a shout out to our supporters. Let me see if I can get this to work. I pressed the button there and it's not loading up. Come on. My machine is like really being slow today. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe it's feeling a bit inadequate with all the all the Raspberry Pi talk. Come on, load up. So let me find this. I'm just going to go back to me for a second, and then I'm going to go back over to there. Normally my live streams are so slick, but today my Stream Deck's decided not to do what I've told it to do there. So let me see if I can find that instead over here. So let's go for, is it this one? Nope, where are we? Sorry guys, I'm not sure what's going on there. My machine is really behaving poorly. Let's see if there's something I can kill on the CPU. It doesn't look like it. Looks like eCam has stopped working as well. No! What is going on there? eCam.
At least you've not dropped anything.
Well, that's true. Let's just say, yeah, eCam is misbehaving. So why is that not working? Come on, guys, what's going on? So are people actually still getting the stream? My machine looks like the eCam looks like it's frozen, but I'm not sure if it's actually still pushing out stuff at the moment. let me know in the chat. And if not, we'll probably have to end the stream actually if it's not still broadcasting. So let me know in the chat if you can hear me. And yep, stream is still working, Paul says. Thank you for that. You can still see me. Great. So yeah, Ecamm has had a bit of a silly moment there. I'm not sure what's going on. So Steve Phillips says still have a feed here. Good. So yeah, maybe that'll start working in a second. I don't want to kill the stream. So what I will do is I will just have a look through and see if there's anything else anybody's talking about on here. So Shortliner says, does anybody know if any? There we go. It's come back. So yes, we've got a couple of supporters I just want to give a shout out to. So we've got Eric Hart, Steve Gale, somebody who wanted to remain nameless via the Buy Me a Coffee. We have Adam Sargent, aka Haunted Howarth, as a member. We have D.N. Corty, we have Marlene Brent, John Rank, Tom, Shemi and Steve Phillips. And then on the YouTube membership side, we've got Chris, we've got Cassie, we've got Dale from Hybrid Robotics, we've got Tinkering Rocks, JDM, Johnny Bates, Bill Hoy, Ortrad39, Javi Gold, we have Hans from Cheerlights, Michael, and of course Tom. So thank you everybody for supporting the show. If you want to get your name in the credits as well, you can do that by going to kezrobots.com/credits.